Should Sam Darnold be in the weekly QB1 discussion? The short answer, absolutely, or at the very least, a part of the discussion because we've seen other streamers like Daniel Jones crash the top 12 rankings list on a week to week basis. So while he might not be there for every single week, at the very least, considering him as a top 12 quarterback should definitely be a part of our process. And let's kind of walk through the reasons why. Let's start with what's different for Sam Darnold. The long time, or at least the past few years, Jets starting quarterback that's been either inaccurate, seeing ghosts, out with mono. Y'all remember that. But at least for the first 4 weeks in Carolina, he's shown us at least what the Matt Rule, Joe Brady system can do for another quarterback. They did it with Teddy Bridgewater last season. Sam Darnold is now their second project, which is now paid off really well for them with three 300-yard passing games to start off Sam Darnold's stint with the Carolina Panthers, which he's never done that in his career. And if you look at his underlying statistics, we can see some of the reason why a lot of that is going to continue to happen for him to keep him in that quarterback one discussion. 7.9 adjusted yards per attempt through 4 weeks. Throughout his entire career with the Jets, he sat at about 5.9 adjusted yards per attempt. And if you take a look at some of his passing charts, you can see what's so important about what you're seeing here, like from Sam Darnold. On a week-to-week basis, we're seeing more of the intermediate and deeper shots like for him. And that was a part of each of the game plans like for them, like when they're facing Dallas, any of the earlier weeks, like where he wound up having some of those like better game scripts, you can see that he's looking more down the field versus looking at just trying to dump off those passes. Over 26% of his passes while he was part of New York were either at or behind the line of scrimmage. And it's part of why he was labeled as an inefficient quarterback, because even when he did take those shots downfield, there were those 50-50 balls, or they were in situations where they were already trailing and he was unable to complete a lot of those throws, which made him a turnover prone quarterback. So if you want to take a look at also what's different for him, his clean pocket efficiency. And now that measures how a quarterback performs when there's absolutely nothing else going on. The pocket's holding up, he's able to scan the field, and you would essentially want your quarterback to be either accurate or efficient, probably both. But at the very least, that was another bugaboo for Sam Darnold when he was with the Jets. His EPA per play was actually negative 0.5, which is the absolute worst, like you would want to see from a starting quarterback, a young starting quarterback, like in the NFL. This year, like through 4 weeks, he's actually at a positive 0.5, like EPA per play. He's towards at the very least, above league average. And on top of that, he's 13th in completion percentage over expected. All of the things that we never really ascribed to Sam Darnold when he was part of New York, we're now seeing that come to fruition with Carolina. We're seeing him actually utilize that personnel, like whether it's DJ Moore or any of the other ancillary pieces. We're hoping Robbie Anderson can get back into the fold. But at the very least, that is at least a part of his game that he's improved on. What's also improved and what's different for him with New York is the passing volume. The Carolina Panthers are 14th in a neutral passing rate versus 21st with the Jets. They're also at least league average with deep ball rate, where at least with the Jets, they were constantly trying to push the ball downfield. They were 10th in deep ball rate, or top 10 in deep ball rate for each of the years that Darnold was a part of that offense. So if you're taking a relatively inaccurate quarterback in Sam Darnold and trying to force the ball downfield to some of their players, when at least we knew that the players that he was playing with at the time were not those deep ball contested catch type of guys. It just didn't fit the way that Sam Darnold likes to play that game. And on top of that, I mean, the big thing are the design runs. He already has 10 design runs through 4 weeks. He only had 30 in his entire time as a Jet, which has actually pushed his touchdown rate down to about 3.4%, where he has a career average of 3.7%, which at the very least, if we see some of those rushing touchdowns oscillate back to passing touchdowns, we can at least see the continued production. But what has stayed the same? The turnovers while they're trying to come back. We saw that against Dallas this week, where while they were at least in a critical situation, one of his errant throws like wound up going over for a touchdown, or not going over for a touchdown, going over for an interception. His second one, I'm not going to put that one on him, but I do see that being the case, or at least a possible issue that Sam Darnold still needs to overcome. But at least looking forward, he doesn't seem to have all too much of an issue. Looking at their schedule moving forward, we're seeing them have Philadelphia, Minnesota, New York, Atlanta, New England. Only 3 of those matchups are above the top 10 in terms of EPA per play allowed. So for right now, Sam Darnold should at the very least be a part of that quarterback one discussion.